That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I am Sid Part 2, and I am not centered in the frame. Anyway, I'm very happy to welcome a bunch of new subscribers to the channel. Thank you, people that subscribed for the Killing Joke episode of Geeky Gentleman that was uploaded completely by surprise to most people yesterday. We were surprised that we were recording it. Just thanks for subscribing. I do comic reviews once weekly. For those of you that haven't checked out the Killing Joke Geeky Gentleman, here's a link to it for your personal enjoyment. For those that have just subscribed, thank you once again. And if you are a fan of current monthly comics, I take suggestions for single issues that are coming out to pick up. And I also do a bit called Trade Talk, where I will sit down and talk about a trade paperback or graphic novel. I've been kind of bad about that the last couple weeks. In fairness, I've been watching through Dragon Ball for the first time in years, and it's Dragon Ball. I'm almost done, so I'll be back to Trade Talk fairly soon. I take suggestions for single issues. I promise to pick up at least one issue, and if I enjoy it enough, I'll add it to my pull list. There's a book on here this week that I'm doing that for. And also, if you have a suggestion for a graphic novel or a trade, please leave that below too. Those are obviously harder to come by. They're not always in stock at different stores, so I just kind of keep an eye out for those. I can't give you a dead promise, but I promise if I see it and it's not ridiculously priced, I will pick it up. So all that in mind, let's go ahead and get started with this fairly, not a huge stack, not a short stack though. One issue makes a big difference. Fairly small week of comic reviews. No cap. We're starting this week with DC Rebirth Wonder Woman number 3. I'm a little iffy on this series just in general because I don't quite know what Rucka's doing with it yet. But what I do love about this issue in particular is the art is goddamn beautiful. I'm in love with the art of this book right now. It looks amazing. The panel layouts are fantastic. The character designs, the character models that they're using are great. I really love it. The work that they're putting into this on the art side is phenomenal, and it's fantastic, and it all shows. It's like, it just looks amazing on the page, and I love that about it. They're really going all out with the artwork on this, and that's fantastic. The story itself, I think I know what's going on in it. It's part of the problem of doing this. Like, I keep saying this with this book. It's got two stories running at the same time. So doing one story one month and one story the next month, it makes it kind of hard to get, you already have enough trouble remembering what's going on in a book month to month, but now you're 2 months between stories. So it's going to make it a little more difficult. But I didn't have too much trouble following it. Wonder Woman is not sure what's going on with her past because it's not lining up and making any sense. So she went to the cheetah to seek help, and the cheetah now needs her help to get out of the curse that her life has become. There's one scene in particular in this book that I really, really enjoyed. So we have Wonder Woman and the cheetah running away from these hyena men that are the servants of the god that Cheetah bargained her life away for. And there's this really badass kind of horror fight scene between Wonder Woman and Cheetah against all these hyena men. And then Sheeta is getting, like, overwhelmed by, like, some kind of animalism that's part of her because of the curse. And Wonder Woman tells her to stop, and the way in which she gets her to stop is to hug and hold her, and is just telling her, it's not true, you don't have to do this, you're my friend. She's being very comforting and holding her until she's able to calm down. It's very motherly in that way. There's a little bit of strength in it, and holding her back, but it is very, very motherly, and I like that about it. It's Wonder Woman being both a badass action hero, but also being nurturing and supportive of someone as opposed to just punching. I like that about this. Yeah, that was really cool. Left with a kind of sort of interesting cliffhanger. We'll see how I feel 2 months from now on this. And all the clapping for the new subscribers is for me to make audio edits, just so you know. Let's go ahead and move on to Black Panther number 4. And I have not cared for this book at all. We're 4 issues in, and I finally just hit my breaking point. The conversations these characters are having, like, it keeps making me feel like he's trying to make a wider point about what a perfect society is, or what a great society would be. And that's all well and good, but you're just not showing me that. It's been nothing but chaos in Wakanda. And I don't have anything inherently against that. I'm all for showing how heroic, how moral, what have you, these characters are by showing them overcoming greater and greater struggles. But that's just not what I'm seeing in this. I'm just seeing a huge problem that are pointing out things inherently wrong with Wakandan society. I'm not used to my hair being out, so I'm going to be doing this the whole video. Things that are inherently wrong with Wakandan society, and telling me that they can't fucking fix this issue. This is just an issue with the society, and you just have to work around it. And, like, that's not interesting to me. I don't want that for Wakanda. It's a fictional society. Let it be fictional. You're not doing anything that interests me, and you're not taking the character and making them move beyond anything or find a better way. At least not yet. And 4 issues in, I've been reading it for 4 months. Come on! That's too long. That's too long of setup and disappointment and defeat for the hero for me to stay this invested in it. I can't do it. So, that being said, this book is out for me. This is off my pull list now. It's just, there's too much setup, not enough is happening, and the stuff that is happening is stuff I don't like, and that bugs the crap out of me. There's a kind of okay conversation between T'Challa and his stepmother, but I still don't like it. There's just too much going on, and it's just annoying the hell out of me. And then it ends. Like, really, I was almost going to give it another issue or two, but then the end of this issue just pissed me off. T'Challa's really angry because there was a terror attack in the Wakandan capital, and his stepmother was almost killed because of it. Like, she's in the hospital with serious injuries. And he goes, "We know what this is. It is war, and war is our nation's trade. It has begun so for generations, we Wakanda. It has been so for generations. We are Wakanda. We will not be terrorized. We are terror itself." That pissed me off. Oh, that pissed me off. That is not even close to Kirby's vision for Black Panther. That's not close to anything else I've seen done with Black Panther. To be fair, I haven't seen a lot, but it doesn't line up with what I like about Black Panther, so fuck that book. Just, goddamn, that pissed me off. I do not like this. I do not like this. I do not like this. It's bad. I'm sorry, Black Panther fans, because you shouldn't have to be putting up with crap like this. If you're enjoying this book, please leave me a comment below telling me what you like about it, because I am so not interested to, like, that is my spectrum of not interested to pissed off, and that's not okay with me. You try talking at a camera and tell me how easy it is to stay hydrated. Okay, let's talk about a good book, because I'm kind of iffy on Wonder Woman. There are things I definitely like about it. It's much better than Black Panther. Black Panther, terrible. It's gone. It's off my list. So, no more videos with that. And then we have Steve Rogers' Captain America, number 3. This is pretty good. I still quite like this series. Nick Spencer really knows what he's doing with this universe right now. Again, the thing that I think I like the most is, and this is going to sound weird, I like how genuinely positively, sure that works, I like how genuinely positively they portray Nazism. And that sounds crazy, right? That sounds insane, but hear me out. Nazism wasn't like how we think of it now. Widely, Nazism was not perceived in the same way in which we think of it in this day and age. The Nazis did not think of themselves as the villains of history that they have now become. They thought of themselves as helping the world, as being involved in progressing and nurturing and making the world a better place. That's what Nazis saw themselves as, and there was a large percentage of people that believed that too. I remember reading letters sent back and forth between just different people during World War II, and if I remember correctly, it was like a letter a pen pal wrote to his friend in America about how great Hitler was making their country and how he was getting rid of all the peoples causing all the problems in their country, and how America should get rid of their Jews too because it was making everything better. And that's the real face of Nazism, of fascism, truly. Of it makes everyone feel better. Like there are quote-unquote good things that can be done under a fascist rule. It's just at what cost? Like the example everyone points to is, well, Hitler did a lot of great things for Germany before the whole Holocaust and everything started up. And while that's true on a factual level, it completely ignores context. But just regardless, fascism can mobilize people and get them out to do things to help at least parts of the country. Any government properly motivating the people can do that. Once again, the example that people go to is, well, like the Autobahn was a Nazi project. Never mind the fact that it was put on the books and planned out before the rise of Hitler. It just finished in Hitler's time in office, ignoring that. But like there are things that it can do to help the society, at least portions of it, but it's the cost of it that makes fascism terrifying and fundamentally wrong. And I like how this book is portraying that. We have this opening scene with like this flashbacky kind of look at Steve Rogers' childhood. And it's like a community meeting of women involved in helping their neighborhood. And it's like a summation of the meeting. In terms of other continuing projects, the repainting of the community center is coming along nicely, and we continue to lobby council member Patrick to get a new playground built. So far, he's resistant, but the men's group is confident we can change his mind. But perhaps best of all, we are able to feed and clothe over 100 of our most destitute neighbors this past Sunday. Of course, none of that would have been possible without one of our newest members, Sarah Rogers. With her help, the charity drive set a new monthly record. Oh, thank you. I'm just glad I could help. We all are. Well, if that concludes the adjunctions, I suppose we should throw up the cheer one last time. Hail Hydra! That's Nazism. That's what fascism is. It's making people think they're helping, but they're only helping one aspect of it. And then there's, quite a terrifying thing toward the end of this. We see Steve Rogers' father beats his wife. Terrible thing to do. This is not an acceptable consequence. That is what fascism is. And again, there's that line. We're still, we continue to lobby council member Patrick to get a new playground built. So far he's resistant, but the men's group is confident we can change his mind. There's your men's group. That's what they do. That's what fascism is. So it portrays the belief, the understanding from the naive perspective of someone in the benefiting of a society under fascist rule, under fascist policies. And certainly it's set in pre-World War II America, so it's not a fully fascist state, but this is a fascist group growing, which happened. So I really like how they're portraying this as if you were in it, it was great. It's just terrifying if you weren't. That's what I really like about it. It's not a, oh, Nazis are the bad guys of history perspective. It's, this was great if you were in it, and I'll show you how. But here's the cost that it came at. Here are the consequences for wrong actions or wrong thinking in that kind of society. And they're monstrous. And that's frightening. Once again, we hear the cliche a lot about people in towns around the Nazi death camps. They didn't know what was going on. And maybe in immediate towns, like right next door, that's probably bullshit. But for the people throughout the country, I honestly buy it. Because you don't show the ugly side. You don't show the costs of what you're doing. How's the rest of the book, though? Really pretty good. There's a very particular, very fun sense of humor this book has, and it's in the Sam Wilson Captain America book too. They notice Rick Flag and Free Spirit on the ground, and this is like in a city that is run by supervillains. And like some supervillains notice him and he goes, "You sure don't look like you're from around here." "Yeah, it's true. Not a lot of flag-themed supervillains, which is weird, really. I mean, just because I'm a sociopathic mercenary don't mean I'm not patriotic. I pay taxes. Then again, world's not always an understanding place. That was funny. That's a funny line. Why can't supervillains be patriotic? That's really clever. Taskmaster being a sheriff is pretty funny. Pretty cool and funny at the same time. And then he's like kind of commenting on the new Captain America shield, and he goes, Rogers should have known you'd be trailing. Been meaning to ask, what's the deal with the new shield? Don't seem very aerodynamic. And then he just gets it gets rocket blasted at him, and that was really cool. And then Steve beats the crap out of him and walks away, puts the shield back together, and Taskmaster goes, actually, I think I'm coming around on the shield. I really like that. That was good. And then there's a pretty good bit with the supervillains as they raid an air carrier. Just a really fun, really cool issue. The stuff with Red Skull's really intimidating, and we're getting our first hints throughout this conversation with Red Skull that Steve Rogers maybe turned, but maybe not quite. He's still Steve Rogers underneath. He's not a different person. He's just had his head fucked with, so he thinks he's doing the right thing, but he doesn't truly get it yet. And we get a really good cliffhanger with that, too, where, even though at the beginning of the issue we were under the impression that Dr. Selvig was killed, Steve has kept him alive for some reason, and he says, are you ready to do what has to be done? So maybe he's still probably Hydra, or thinks he's Hydra, in some way, shape, or form. I think there's a good chance that Steve Rogers is going to try to overthrow Red Skull and become the new leader of Hydra to make it do the right thing. It'll be interesting to see where this story goes. I really like that. It's really clever. It looks like next week we're getting a Civil War II tie-in. Normally I wouldn't be very happy about that, but with how good the Sam Wilson Civil War tie-ins have been, maybe. I don't know. I've not heard good things about Civil War II, but damn, Nick Spencer's making a hell of a case for it. I'll give him that. So I'll see how he does with the Steve Rogers book. Should be interesting. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to the last book for the week. This one was picked up by a request from someone in the comments. It is Black Hammer #1. This is really neat. I've been picking up a lot of Dark Horse lately, just side note. But this book is really neat. Okay, I'm trying to think of the best possible way to describe it from the few details we're given throughout this first issue. What I think is going on is, you remember that episode of Justice League where they kind of wake up in the small town that's got all the 50s era superheroes that Jon Stewart had read in comic books as a kid, stuff like that. It's kind of seems to be a situation like that, just more adult in some way. Not one-to-one, but the heroes are in some kind of other reality in which they do not truly belong. Kind of. So apparently 10 years ago, there was this huge, big, epic superhero battle, yada yada, boring, epic superhero battles, who needs them? In the middle of a city, and they were all the members of that universe's Justice League or hero team, whatever you'd call them, were fighting this villain and managed to save the city, but in a blinding flash of explosion, they were gone with the threat. and 10 years have passed. Now, the world assumes them dead, but it appears that somehow they've been put into some kind of town, like a small town, that seems to operate as just like a normal, everyday, middle America city, or town, small town. But they're not able to, the heroes themselves aren't able to leave, and no one knows who they are. No one knows who the superheroes are. So we're not sure what, that's like all the details we get. So it looks like it's some kind of weird alternate dimension or reality that they're in. And they're just dealing with basically personal shit now, because they've been there for 10 years, living on this farm together. They've all been there for 10 years, and they're all kind of starting to get a little annoyed with each other. They're kind of tired of certain things. It's just a really unique idea for a story. And I'm really excited to keep reading this. I'm going to add this to my pull list. Only thing, like, major criticism I have about this is the art looks kind of, well, just bad in places. Looks way too sketchy. Too many curved lines to the point where people look like they have boxer faces. Particularly these two panels. These two panels look terrible to me. Like, that dude and the yellow shirt doesn't even look like he has a face. And then the next panel of the other guy looks even, like, almost as bad, but not quite. It's just, it really, really, and that there's examples of that where just the faces look really sketchy and pretty ugly. And people just don't look the same from panel to panel. It doesn't look like the same person. Like this panel, that was the same dude from earlier, and he's got the same hair and mustache color, but the mustache seems to be shaped differently. The whole face looks different. The art is probably the worst thing about this book, and that bothers me. It just makes it kind of distracting. Otherwise, what else? It just looks like a really fun book, and I'm really excited to keep reading it. I'm wondering if he's just going to continue... Who's writing this? Jeff Lemire. I'm wondering if he's just going to continue from where this issue leaves off, or if maybe we'll get like an immediate prequel thing or some flashback stuff. I'd like some flashback stuff, because it just seems like how they first got here is really interesting, and I want to know like how they started to establish this dynamic. Like one of them was like a teenage superhero girl, but for some reason in this dimension, reality, whatever, she's now 9. She's now living in the body of a 9-year-old girl. And so I don't quite know how that happened, and I'm sure we'll get an explanation. I'm just curious how. So I'm kind of hoping for some flashback stuff. That'd be really interesting. But that'll do it for this week's episode of Comic Reviews. I really did quite like this. This is going on my poll list. Can't wait to talk about it more. That'll do it for this week's episode. Again, if you have any suggestions for single issues or graphic novels to pick up, please leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to get a hold of them. Until next time, everyone, thanks very much for watching.